What's up, War Report family? We are back with another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. You guys know the deal. It's Wednesday, and I'm talking to my guy Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered for our weekly power ranking segment. Chris, Auburn had a bye week. They couldn't lose, but you moved them up.
Auburn did not lose. How about that? What a Monday. What a week, start of the week we're having. And they're probably going to get a win this weekend. Here we go. It's a great time to be a Tiger. And got a big one on the hardwood. I know we're talking football, but, I mean, taking down Houston after the plane debacle, got the dub.
Plane gate.
Great weekend to be a Tiger, man. No, Mike, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a pleasure. And Auburn didn't lose a game. They moved up in the rankings, and I rushed into their SEC field, man. So this 2024 season's about as wacky as it gets.
It is. Before we get into last week's power rankings, you guys know the deal. Please hit like and subscribe on the channel. Help us grow our community. Share this on social media at the War Report, every social media platform. Chris, last week in week 11, you had Georgia at number 1. Oof, man, heartbreaking loss. I hated to see them lose to a poverty program like Ole Miss. But Carson Beck is having one of the worst seasons we've seen from a Georgia quarterback in quite some time. Texas at 2, Tennessee at 3, LSU at 4. Ole Miss came in last week at 5. South Carolina at 6, big win for them this weekend. Texas A&M, Alabama, Vandy, and Arkansas round out the top 10. You had a weird win by Mizzou this weekend. They were at 11. Florida at 12, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Kentucky round out the top 16. Moving on to this week, man, we got movement. Now, did it pain you to move Ole Miss up to 2? Are they really the second best team in the conference?
It didn't pain me. I mean, listen, Mike, again, I was at that game in person, watched that thing firsthand. I'm more so looking at maybe – now, listen, the Kentucky loss is just unfathomable. It's the most – ridiculous outcome of any in the SEC this season. I think you could argue it's a more ridiculous outcome than Alabama losing to Vanderbilt. I know because of perception, the Vandy logo, how long it had been, but Vandy's actually a solid team. Kentucky sucks. They suck. So the fact that Ole Miss lost to them, I don't know how to explain it. But I look more so, I'm like, maybe we kind of oversold like the demise of Ole Miss. They've only trailed for like a minute and a half this entire season. I mean, they lost at LSU, but they're in control of that game the entire game. They didn't lose that, or they didn't trail until they lost. So, and then watching them in person against Georgia, man, I tell you, they were a desperate bunch. You could tell they knew their season was on the line. We asked the question, Mike, going in, have they done enough, or had they done enough to make up the massive gap? Right, last year they got crushed by Georgia. Have they done enough to make up that gap? Defensively, the answer was hell yeah. I mean, their defensive front – Carson Beck never stood a chance. I know we give him all the crap, and he deserves it, but Princely Umanmielen, Walter Nolan, Jared Ivey, J.J. I mean, the list goes on and on. They are elite in the front seven, and Lane Kiffin was in his bag.
Finally got over the hump.
Was in his bag. I thought one of the biggest moments, Mike, of that game when Jackson Dart goes out early and the Austin Simmons kid comes in, the lefty. That drive was a thing of beauty. Beautifully called, beautifully executed. It was like that was such a critical moment in that game because it could have went sideways. So I watched Ole Miss. Listen, Mike, the 2 spot is up for grabs. I mean, you can't tell me right. We can make a solid argument. There's a bunch of different teams you could put here. But after what I saw from Ole Miss, the way they dominated Georgia, it felt right to me to slide them up to that spot.
Yeah, I think credit to the Ole Miss defense, but clearly Carson Beck is having some issues. And to me, this is more about
putting
Georgia.
It lightly.
Yeah. It's more about Georgia playing bad than it was Ole Miss playing good in my book. But I will not ever give them credit going back here. South Carolina logged a big win this weekend. So you move the Gamecocks up to 4. Alabama obviously beat LSU in Death Valley on Saturday, so they moved up to 5. Georgia dropped to 6 from 1. A&M comes in at 7. LSU at 8. Missouri's an interesting one to me. Missouri had to play Oklahoma, but Brady Cookless, and they came out with the win. And it just felt more like Oklahoma fumbled the bag than it was that Missouri won that game to me.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Oklahoma, who you now see at number 16, and I made the joke on social media, Mike, that I don't know what ceremonies or rituals or what voodoo Texas channeled in the preseason to
Mm-hmm.
us to get to a place where they're number 1 in the SEC and Oklahoma's 16, but they did something for sure. And Oklahoma's on my shit list. That they are. I bet on Oklahoma to beat Missouri. I
I feel
picked
that.
them. I felt so confident. There's no way they could lose to a Brady Cookless Missouri, and they found a way. They sure enough
They did
found
it.
a way at the end of the game to lose that football game. So I will say this though: everybody wants to poo-poo on Mizzou, and I've been one of them. I've said many times, I think they're the worst 7-2 team in the country. But,
But
however, the bottom line is they're 7-2, and without their starting quarterback, Mike, they found a way to get the job done, as ugly as it might have been. Now, they got a real test this upcoming weekend at South Carolina for the Mayor's Cup,
yeah,
a game in which, again, I've got the Gamecocks at 4. I think they're probably the best 6-3 team in the country. I think they're one of the
that
hottest
defense
teams.
is legit. Yeah.
That defense might be the best in college football. One of the best. One of the best. That defensive front is insane. They're maybe the hottest team in the country right now, just the way they're playing. So, listen, Missouri can earn a lot of respect back if they went into Columbia, South Carolina version, and beat the Gamecocks. By the way, this is a team, Mizzou has beat South Carolina 5 years in a row. And Eli Drinkwitz has beat them 5 years in a row, going all the way back to 2019 when he was the head coach at Appalachian State and beat Will Muschamp, South Carolina.
Okay.
In Columbia, South Carolina. So Mizzou's got a big opportunity, but I just, they are tough to figure out. To your point, Mike, we know they still have good personnel, but they've been so underwhelming in the biggest moments, and certainly they escaped death on Saturday.
They did. They did. Going back here, Arkansas at 10, Vandy at 11, Auburn at 12. Now, Auburn didn't play this week, but what happened in front of them? We saw Florida get destroyed this weekend. Mississippi State, Kentucky, who Auburn beat, and Oklahoma, who we mentioned, lost to Missouri down at the bottom of the SEC. Our friend Heather Dinich at ESPN said she saw 5 teams making possibly this first playoff. I don't think, to me, the SEC doesn't have 5 playoff teams right now. I don't see it. I think Georgia still is in prime position to make a 12-team playoff. I think Ole Miss is one loss away from falling out of this conversation, and certainly down the stretch, there's some opportunities for them to lose that third game. Alabama is right there in the hunt. Texas is in the hunt. I think at the end of the day, it's the familiar names, Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, that make this playoff. Everybody else is a toss-up.
I think that's fair, Mike. I think what's interesting, though, and again, of course, Georgia plays Tennessee this weekend. That's a playoff eliminator if the Dogs were to somehow, or if they were to lose. I don't want to make it sound like it's an impossible feat, because I think Tennessee's got a great shot in that game. But so to your point, they got a big one this weekend. You know, Alabama getting the win over LSU. They eliminate LSU. They take care of business the rest of the way out. I think Alabama is going to be in, obviously. I'll tell you this, though, Mike. Somebody's going to feel like they got screwed, because I think there's going to be 5 teams with a serious case. I think Texas, I think Tennessee, I think Georgia, I think Ole Miss, and I think Alabama are all going to feel like they should be in.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like right now of those 5, Mike, maybe Tennessee's the odd man out. I mean, maybe Georgia's the odd man out. I don't know. I mean, it is, we're going to continue to be very eagerly awaiting these playoff rankings, and I'm so curious for, I know obviously by the time this will drop, we'll already seen them, but just week after week, what the committee is weighing, what they're weighing in favor of. They mentioned to us last week the way the game looks, the eye test matters, head-to-heads also matter. So somebody's going to feel like they got screwed over. There's no question in my mind. So, and I'll tell you this, I'll take it a step further, Mike. Interesting about Ole Miss. I mentioned this to somebody else. You tell me what you think. And I know, like, hindsight's 2020. Like, you didn't go into the season like thinking this is how you wanted it to play out, and you'd certainly rather be 11-1 than, or you'd rather finish 11-1 than 10-2. But if you were gonna lose, couldn't I argue it's almost better that Ole Miss lost to Kentucky and beat Georgia than beat Kentucky and lost to Georgia? Because then if you're Ole Miss, you're like, what would be your signature win? You traded an inexplicable loss for a signature win, which I think the committee is going to heavily weigh. Because I think Georgia's still looked at as Georgia, especially if they beat Tennessee, finish 10-2. I think that's going to be looked at as like that's a really good win.
This isn't your granddad's Georgia though. Like this, like
it ain't your granddad's Alabama either. But beating Alabama is still beating Alabama.
I hear you, and I'm not questioning the reasoning. I'm just saying there's another side to that coin because the Georgia team that you beat is clearly a weaker version of what we thought they would be.
Well, then it's even, Mike. Then it's even more. I feel like it kind of even more proves my point though, because had you beaten Kentucky, who stinks, and you'd be getting no credit for that, then lost to Georgia, who's not your granddad Georgia, Ole Miss definitely wouldn't be in because their resume wouldn't stack up. You'd be like, they beat nobody. Like, so I just, it's a fun, like, I know it doesn't matter in the grand, but it's just an interesting combo. It's like, dang, well, maybe Ole Miss actually did themselves a favor.
Yeah, my prayer is that they lose one more game and we don't have to talk about them at all. Like,
I didn't know the Ole Miss hatred was this deep.
Yeah, it's just they're just a bunch of frauds, man. I'm sorry. Like Lane Kiffin, congrats on finally beating somebody of note. But yeah, like I said, it's.
Oh, this goes back to the Lane Kiffin Auburn rumors, doesn't it?
No. Like, look, you gave up that game on the road at Death Valley, a game they clearly should have won. Mm-hmm. Now, credit to LSU for taking the game, but certainly, losing that game in overtime in the fashion that they did tells me more about Ole Miss, I think, than the win against Georgia, a Georgia team with a Carson Beck who's been struggling against everybody. So it wasn't like they came in and they did some fantastic job on Carson Beck, right? He just has been doing what he's been doing. His issues are more about him than the way they played him. And I think if you get a better version of Carson Beck, there's no way Ole Miss wins that game. And I think they do have a great defense. And I think that Jackson Dart is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But I still think that Lane Kiffin flops when it matters the most, and there's still time for him to do that between now and the end of the season. Before we start talking about Auburn, just want to thank our sponsors here, our friends at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant. If you're in the Auburn area, Chris, and you want some Mexican when you come back to town, I know you were here for Arkansas, visit Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant at 1220 Fox Run Avenue, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. Great family environment, friends of the community, law enforcement, local politicians. Everybody goes to Los Amigos. They also got lots of TVs there. So on game day, if you're looking for a great game day experience and something great to eat, visit Los Amigos. They've got you covered. And after the game, if you want to have a different kind of fun, go visit our friends at Joy Mode at tryjoymode.com. Now, I don't know about you. Mexican food is a known aphrodisiac. And Joy Mode has you covered on the other end of this. Look, everybody wants to go into the bedroom, Chris, feeling like QB1 and not QB2. And if you want to be QB1 in the bedroom, visit tryjoymode.com and use code REPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Imagine a supplement like your favorite greens pack that you can put in 6 to 8 ounces of water about 45 minutes before the boom boom time, and bam, touchdown. Touchdown, Auburn. Tryjoymode.com. Use code REPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Getting back into the conversation here.
Is Mexican food really an aphrodisiac?
No.
Okay. I gotta check my sources on that one, right? But you sold the heck out of the Mexican spot. I mean, that is like, kill two birds, one stone.
One stone, right? Eat some Mexican
touchdown
food.
Auburn, he says.
Yeah,
all right.
That's good.
I'm going to have a terrible visual. Never mind. I'm not even going to go there.
War Eagle, baby. Look, Auburn moved up in your rankings this week, but they didn't play. And clearly some of the other teams showed who they are. But I want to close this segment out talking about what Auburn has left to play for. Now, you've got ULM this weekend. And I said something that upset a lot of Auburn fans, and I'm going to say it again. If Hugh Freeze finishes this season somehow 3-9, reports are that Peyton Thorne did not practice last week due to his shoulder. I don't think firing should be off the table.
3-9 would be with a loss to UL Monroe, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I would. If they lose to UL Monroe, they shouldn't proceed with him as the head coach.
Coaching malpractice.
I don't think that's even a hot take. You're a 24-point favorite, Mike.
Yeah,
it ain't like you're going in. It's not like you're playing the best G5 team in the country. Like,
yeah.
Come on,
Diego Pavia isn't on ULM.
No. So General Booty's hurt. You ain't got to face the booty. Try joyload.com. Anyways, I will say, by the way, to the point I made to you off the air that I want to let the Auburn folks know, why did I move Auburn up?
Yep.
I think Auburn is the best of the – I was going to say not good. I'll just say bad teams. The best of the bad teams. Auburn actually has potential and should be better. Everybody else, everybody below them is just kind of like they're bad, and it just stops there. Auburn's like they're bad, but I'm like they should be better. Look at the numbers. The numbers show it.
And defensively, Chris, this is a top.
The defense will not let them lose to ULM. The defense will not let them lose.
Yeah, you would think, but you got to score points to win. And so
just give it to Jarquez Hunter and get out of the way. Let Jarquez Hunter call the plays.
Yeah, I did not like Hugh Freeze.
Whole lot of halfback power. Whole lot of counter.
I didn't like
lot of pin and pull. I don't know.
His explanation for why they didn't give Jarquez the ball more in their last game versus Vanderbilt. But look, at the end of the day, you as unlikely as it may seem, you win the last three, you make a bowl game. And the caveat that I added to the 3-9 and whether or not firing should not be off the table is that if you can't hold that 2024 recruiting class here, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, all these kids that came in heralded, and 2025 recruiting falls apart. It was reported that their big quarterback commit Deuce Knight was visited Ole Miss this past weekend. Then what I think recruiting was the thing that they hung their hat on in year one. It was 6-7, tragic loss to Alabama, embarrassing bowl loss, G5 loss to New Mexico State. But look at recruiting. Mm-hmm. Well, if you take that out of the equation, because
people lose hope once that starts to slip.
Yeah. If you take that out of the equation because the 2024 kid said, I'm out, and the 2025 kids start to defect, then yes, I think that there's nothing left to hang your hat on here. And all this momentum that you were building, you lost. And 3-9 is one of the things that can make that happen. That's why you have to get this win versus ULM. They have to play like it is, like their lives are on the line. Coach it like your lives are on the line this weekend, because it should be. Coach it like your job is on the line this weekend, because quite honestly, Chris, it should be. And I don't think there's any other way to look at it. Closing thoughts, man. What do you think here?
Well, and I was going to say, Mike, on the flip side, because we've mentioned the 3-9, you got Texas A&M at Jordan-Hare at night. If you can beat ULM convincingly, just get something to feel good about coming out the bye.
Win versus Texas
Listen,
A&M.
Don't
all of this off the table as far as I'm concerned.
I've seen crazier than Jordan. Weird things can still happen at Jordan-Hare. Hey, then if you do that, I mean, it's not likely, but Bama's not unbeatable. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but they're not unbeatable.
But Chris, look, despite the results on the field, all the teams that Auburn has played this year have been beatable. There's been not one game that they haven't been in going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Well, that's what makes it so disappointing, too.
Yeah.
Even
Georgia.
8-4 was there for the taking easily. Like
93 was there.
This was the year to take advantage because everybody's got deficiencies.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this is the conversation you're having at the end of year two. I think 7-5 would have been an acceptable result that says, hey, we won some, we lost some, but we're moving it forward. 4-8 would be it's just so deflating. It would be the second worst season since 2012, where they went 3-9. The last coach that went 3-9 got fired at the end of the season. And like I said, a lot was made of the talent, and you don't have 3-9. You don't have 3-9 talent.
I mean, the numbers show that, Mike.
Yeah, you don't have 3-9 talent.
The numbers show that.
These results are on the coaching. And I will continue to say that it's on the coaching, and
it's even more on coaching than Peyton Thorne, which is crazy to say.
Well, it's just crazy to say.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is more on coaching than it is on him, and because he made the decision, you made the decision to go with Thorne for the season, even.
Yeah. So like anything Thorne does is a reflection of
decisions that were made.
Yes.
Decisions that were made. So we had one idiot in our comments, again, saying the same thing over and over again about like, oh, you're always blaming the coaching and you're not a coach and you never coach. Listen, you don't have to be a coach to look at this product and tell that coaching is the issue.
Mike, I don't have to be a chef to tell you if the food tastes shit
good.
Or not.
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting that this is where we're at, and these are the conversations we're having. But the record is what dictates this conversation. Hopefully, Auburn gets the win, and we're not talking about this going into the Texas A&M game. But look, Hugh Freeze's job is clear, and it wasn't to come in and have a losing record and miss a bowl game in year 2. You can't. The kids are not to blame for this. Now, like I said, we're not talking about whether they're in championship contention or not. We're talking about whether Auburn has an acceptable floor for the talent that they have. And there's no way, not even I thought the ceiling was 7-5 going into this season, but I thought the floor was 6-6. I didn't think
this team not making a bowl game is inexcusable.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the floor. I think the floor was them missing a bowl game or having the second worst season since the worst season since 1950 something. Yeah. So it's frustrating, yes, but you do have a chance to turn some things around here. All hope is not lost yet. Handle business versus ULM, and then coach your asses off versus Texas A&M. Or if you had to split the two, I know Auburn fans would rather have that Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa than anything. Because
wouldn't this be the year?
Playoff. Yeah,
wouldn't this be the year that Auburn wins in Tuscaloosa for the first time since 2010?
Would be amazing.
Wouldn't this be the year? Hey, all's forgiven. All's forgiven. Maybe not all, but a lot. A lot.
Chris, before we get out of here, man, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Mike, you're the man. It's always a pleasure to come on. I always look forward to this every month or every time we speak. At SEC Unfiltered, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you get your content, you can find us there. YouTube, podcast, our website, secunfiltered.com. And the SEC Unfiltered Tour, Mike, rolls on. We are headed to one of your favorite places in the world, Athens, Georgia, for the Georgia-Tennessee showdown. The Classic City awaits. So continue to follow along with us. And, just check us out wherever you get your content. We'll be there.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, with my guy, Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered. Follow him on social media and follow SEC Unfiltered wherever you listen to your podcast. And follow us on social media at the War Report, every social media platform, TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.